Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be creating a holiday record player using the Record Player Dynamics along with some holiday products. And I was kind of looking at different vintage holiday cards, and I love the look of seeing the traditional Christmas colors, which I've been really into this year, as well as like card designs that had like vintage ornaments and vintage record players. And when I seen one like that, it gave me the idea to use this die along with some holiday products to create a really fun and unique card. So I have two pieces of cardstock cut out here at 4 1/4 by 11 inches long. And if you have 12-inch cardstock, then you only need one piece of cardstock to do this. But I wanted to show you how to do it with 11-inch cardstock just in case you have just the standard size. So this cardstock piece here is going to be the base of our record player, so we need it to fold up into a square shape. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch, and then what you want to do is however wide your cardstock is, so in my instance it's 4 1/4 inches, you want to score 4 1/4 inches from that first original score mark, and that's going to ensure that your record player is completely square. So I just went ahead and scored at 4 3/4, which gave me a nice 4 1/4 inch square in the center. And then I scored again at 5 1/4 inches, which gave me another 1/2 inch score section. So now I have the first score line, I have 2 in the middle, which is going to give us the same 1/2 inch area. And then I just kind of folded that on the third score line. And I'm going to score once again at 4 1/4 inches, and then over one more 1/2 inch, which is going to be 4 3/4 inches. And what this is going to leave us with is our first score line, which is going to be one side of the box, our two middle score lines, which is going to be another side, and our last two score lines, which will close the box and put it together. There is some extra cardstock there, so we will trim that off in just a minute. But before I do that, while I'm already doing the scoring, I'm also going to do what's going to be the lid of the record player. So I'm going to score that first at 4 1/4 inches, and then once again I'm going to go 1/2 inch over and score it again at 4 3/4 inches. And this is going to form the top of the record player, and we're going to trim off all that extra cardstock that we have on the right hand side there. So now I'll go ahead and bring in my paper trimmer and we'll trim up all these pieces so that we can adhere everything together. So on this first one, you want to make sure that your first score line, which is at the left hand side, is not the end that you cut. So I'm going to go ahead and just score everything now so I know exactly where everything's going to fold, so I know exactly where I want to cut that off. So I'm just going to use my bone folder to really perfect those creases and make sure it's nice and creased and folded. And I'm going to do both of those ones in the center there, and you can see that when I do that, we get this little 1/2 inch area that is going to form the side of the box. So now I have all of those pieces, and I have that last little score piece, which is what we're going to use to adhere the box together. So I'm just going to put this into my paper trimmer, and I'm going to use the score line as my guide to know where I need to trim this off. And then once I have this one trimmed up, I'm just going to take that second piece that we did the scoring on once I get this folded over here, and I'm going to trim it off the same way. I'm going to go along the score line as my guide, and I'm going to trim that off so I have the 4 1/4 inch square as well as the 1/2 inch piece on the side that we can fold over very easily. And now we have both pieces that we need to create the finished record player box. So now that we have everything scored and folded, you can see how easily this kind of goes together. It's a perfect fit since we did all of those score lines. So I'm going to use some liquid glue now, and I'm going to adhere the two pieces together. So the first thing I'm going to do is add that liquid glue to one side of the box shape, and then I'm just going to fold it over and position it right on top of the other side, and then just press down to secure that in place. You can use a different adhesive like score tape if you prefer. I just like the liquid glue because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room so that you can kind of move things around and get them lined up. Once I have that done, I'm just going to lay it on my table and push it flat down, because when you finish this card design, that's the cool thing about it, is that you can flatten it to put it into an envelope. I'm going to do the same thing on the lid of the record player and add that same liquid glue to the side just where the little score area is. And then I'm going to position that right over top of the area that we had already glued together and line everything up and press down on that glue to secure it in place. And since we did all of the score lines the same and kept the square shape the same size at 4 1/4 inches, everything is going to line up, and now we're going to have this little area that lifts open on the record player. And you can see on screen there that I'm easily able to fold it flat, so that's going to be perfect for adding it to an envelope for mailing, or we can stand it up to be the record player once we have it all together. So now that we have the base created, we can do the fun part now, which is to decorate this and make it look Christmassy and festive. So for the front of it, I decided to use the Joyful Wreath die, mainly because it kind of fits perfectly in that square shape and it fills up the whole front. And the word that comes with this die is joy, so I decided to pair it with some stamps to put joy to the world on the front, which is the name of a Christmas song. So I thought it was kind of fitting to use as the cover of our record player. The wreath is die cut from Jellybean green cardstock, which is one of my favorite greens for the holidays. And I decided to take a Copic marker. This is a G99, so it's a really nice dark green. And I'm just doing some really light coloring on this and adding just a little bit of detail. So it's not a lot, but it really brings that wreath to life and gives it a little bit of texture to it. And just like I've done in past projects this year for the holidays, I'm using Kraft along with that red and green. And I did a little bit of ink blending on the Kraft with some white pigment ink, just to kind of give the look of snow in the background. Once I had the ink on there, I went ahead and adhered the wreath onto the cardstock square. And now I'm just taking all of the little berries and I'm using my tweezers and a liquid glue pen and I'm adding all of these on around the wreath. And like I mentioned earlier, I am going to use the Joy die cut that comes with this wreath. I've die cut it from gold sparkle cardstock, and I'm pairing it with a sentiment that I've stamped onto our heavyweight vellum and heat embossed with white embossing powder. And that sentiment comes from our Biddy Holiday Wishes stamp set and actually says Joy to the World, but I just used the To the World portion of the stamp. To finish off the front of this piece here, I added a little bit of snow detail to the center of the wreath. Some of my projects this year have had a ton of snow, but for this one I just wanted to add a hint of dot detail in the center and then just add some highlights to the leaves of the wreath as well as the little berries. Once I have that done, we're going to call this finished, and this is going to create the front of the record player. Now I jumped ahead here a little bit. I have everything already die cut, so this is all just die cut pieces. I have a white square of cardstock that's cut 1/4 of an inch smaller than the base of our record player, so it's 4 inches square. And then I have the little knobs that come with the record player. I've die cut them from the same Kraft in red, and I've added them to our square. The record is die cut from black cardstock, and I have the Jellybean green as the center area where the label is. And then I also used my white gel pen to add some highlight detail to the record, and I adhered it to the center of the square with foam adhesive to kind of lift it off the card a little bit. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add the needle and the base of the needle to the top right hand corner. Now if you want to create a record player where your record actually turns, you can do that by simply adding a brad to the center of the record and not putting any adhesive under the record. I am still going to put a brad in the center just to kind of make it look finished, but I didn't want anything on my card to actually move. I just want it to look like a record player. So that's why I used the foam adhesive on the record and just adhered it directly onto the panel. Once I have that on there, I'm just going to add a little bit of highlight detail to that little base there as well as the 2 knobs on the record player, and then this is ready to go on the inside of the card. I didn't want to leave the top area where the record player opens completely plain, so I decided to create this little piece of cardstock here that's going to form a pocket to put a second record in. Now you can actually use this to put a gift card in instead, but I wanted to just kind of show you what it looked like by adding that additional record. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp on this little Kraft cardstock piece, and I want it to kind of look like I'm stamping a playlist of songs. Christmas music is one of my absolute favorites. If I could, I would probably listen to it all year round. So being able to put some stamping on here to make it look like a playlist with a record player and all these Christmas colors, this was just a really fun project. I had so much fun creating it. I decided to bring that holiday feel onto the inside of the record player as well, so I took the wreath and I die cut it a second time, and I cut out just one of the sprig areas from the wreath and I adhered it onto that top pocket piece, and I'm also adding a few berries on as well. I did add a little bit of that white pigment ink around the edges too, just to kind of soften it up and give that same snow look. And then I'm going to take 1/8 inch score tape and I'm going to go around the 2 sides as well as the bottom, and this is what I'm going to use to adhere it to the card. By having the adhesive just on the very edges of this piece allows us to use it as an actual pocket and either put a record in there or, like I mentioned, a gift card. It would be really cool to give like an iTunes gift card or something music related in this type of card, since it would work well with the record player design. So once I had the top finished, I went ahead and added the base of the record player into the card design. And I realized that I still thought it looked a little bit too plain. There is a lot of white space on this area, and I didn't feel like it kind of went with the rest of the design. So I decided to take that same wreath, use another sprig of it, and add it to this area as well, along with some of the berries. I used the same Copic marker to add the detail to it and added highlights to all of the pieces as well. And I just think that by doing this, it really brought the design together and gave the whole entire thing a really cohesive look. So now here's a close-up look. I have the top of the record player, which is just a beautiful card design on its own. And then when you lift it up, you get this really fun surprise where you have a complete record player inside of there, as well as a removable record that you can keep or you can replace with a gift card. So I hope today's video gave you some ideas on ways that you can use the record player dynamics to create a festive holiday card. I hope you guys will give it a try. It is a lot of fun to decorate, and I can't wait to see what you guys create. As always, I appreciate you being here for another video, and I hope to see you in another one soon. Thanks so much for watching.